Let me ask you about your own personal psychology. A tricky question. You've been known at times to have a bit of an ego. Do you think ego?
Says who? But go on.
Do you think ego is empowering or limiting for the task of understanding the world deeply?
I reject the framing.
So you disagree with having an ego. So what do you think about
No,
ego in general?
I think that the question of like what leads to making better or worse predictions, what leads to being able to pick out better or worse strategies is not carved at its joint by talking of ego.
So it should not be subjective. It should not be connected to the intricacies of your own mind.
No, I'm saying that like if you go about asking all day long, like, do I have enough ego? Do I have too much of an ego? I think you get worse at making good predictions. I think that to make good predictions, you're like, how did I think about this? Did that work? Should I do that again?
You don't think we as humans get invested in an idea and then others attack you personally for that idea? So you plant your feet and it starts to be difficult to, when a bunch of assholes, low effort, attack your idea, to eventually say, you know what, I actually was wrong, and tell them that. It's as a human being, it becomes difficult. It is, it's difficult.
So like Robin Hanson and I debated AI systems, and I think that the person who won that debate was Gwern. And I think that reality was like to the Yudkowsky, like well to the Yudkowskian side of the Yudkowsky-Hanson spectrum, like further from Yudkowsky. And I think that's because I was like trying to sound reasonable compared to Hanson and like saying things that were defensible and like relative to Hanson's arguments, and reality was like way over here. In particular, in respect to, so like Hanson was like, all the systems will be specialized. Hanson may disagree with this characterization. Hanson was like, all the systems will be specialized. I was like, I think we build like specialized underlying systems that when you combine them are good at a wide range of things. And the reality is like, no, you just like stack more layers into a bunch of gradient descent. Mm-hmm. And I feel looking back that like by trying to have this reasonable position contrasted to Hanson's position, I missed the ways that reality could be like more extreme than my position in the same direction. So is this like, is this a failure to have enough ego? Is this a failure to like make myself be independent? Like I would say that this is something like a failure to consider positions that would sound even wackier and more extreme when people are already calling you extreme. But I wouldn't call that not having enough ego. I would call that like insufficient ability to just like clear that all out of your mind.
In the context of like debate and discourse, which is already super tricky.
In the context of prediction, in the context of modeling reality, if you're thinking of it as a debate, you're already screwing up.
Yeah. So is there some kind of wisdom and insight you can give to how to clear your mind and think clearly about the world?
Man, this is an example of like where I wanted to be able to put people into fMRI machines. And you'd be like, okay, see that thing you just did? You were rationalizing right there. Yeah. Oh, that area of the brain lit up. Like you are like now being socially influenced is kind of the dream. And, you know, I don't know, like I want to say like just introspect, but for many people, introspection is not that easy. Like notice the internal sensation. Can you catch yourself in the very moment of feeling a sense of, well, if I think this thing, people will look funny at me. Yeah. Okay, like now that if you can see that sensation, which is step one, can you now refuse to let it move you? Or maybe just make it go away? And I feel like I'm saying like, I don't know, like somebody's like, how do you draw an owl? And I'm saying like, well, just draw an owl. So I feel like maybe I'm not really that I feel like most people, like the advice they need is like, well, how do I notice the internal subjective sensation in the moment that it happens of fearing to be socially influenced? Or, okay, I see it. How do I turn it off? How do I let it not influence me? Like, do I just like do the opposite of what I'm afraid people will criticize me for? And I'm like, no, you're not trying to do the opposite of what people will, of what you're afraid you'll be like, of what you might be pushed into. You're trying to like let the thought process complete without that internal push? Like, can you like not reverse the push, but like be unmoved by the push? And are these instructions even remotely helping anyone? I don't know.
I think when those instructions, even those the words you've spoken, and maybe you can add more, when practiced daily, meaning in your daily communication. So it's daily practice of thinking without influence from.
I would say find prediction markets that matter to you and bet in the prediction markets. That way you find out if you are right or not.
And you really, there's stakes.
Manifold predict or even manifold markets where the stakes are a bit lower. But
Yeah.
the important thing is to like get the record. And you know, I didn't build up skills here by prediction markets. I built them up via like, well, how did the Foom debate resolve? And my own take on it as to how it resolved. And yeah, like the more you are able to notice yourself not being dramatically wrong, but like having been a little off. Your reasoning was a little off. You didn't get that quite right. Each of those is a opportunity to make like a small update. So the more you can like say oops softly, routinely, not as a big deal, the more chances you get to be like, I see where that reasoning went astray. I see how I should have reasoned differently. And this is how you build up skill over time.